is Nicole Telkish, and I majored at UT in environmental resource management and minored in botany because I wanted to get training as an herbalist, and that was the closest that I could get at UT. So then, after many more years of other training from around the country in North America, I am now the director and founder of the Wildflower School of Botanical Medicine, where we have year-round herb school focused on North American holistic Western approaches to using our bioregional medicines. And also I work as a clinician, and I make extracts from things that I grow or wildcraft. The Wildflower School of Botanical Medicine is a on-site and online training program in both basic, intermediate, and advanced studies in botanical medicine and holistic studies. So, but we come from it from a North American perspective and Western perspective. So we use philosophy that is not really taught anymore. It's philosophy, it's doctoring and philosophy that comes from the mid-1800s to early 1900s that was cut off by the Flexner Report of 1910 or 11, when the AMA shut down all the botanical medicine schools across the country and decided they wanted to go with a postgraduate four-year model, German-style model. So we kind of use the types of philosophy and the use of bioregional native plants as eclectic physicians and physiomedical physicians would have used in the mid-1800s, early 1900s.
Actual school was?
So the school is here. So we use this is where we make stuff, and then we also use the house next door, so that's the main classroom space. But so we do classes over there. It's also outside, so a lot of our classes are literally outside the whole day. So we use the classroom space when it's bad weather, and then we also use a space at the American Botanical Council, where I worked many years ago. So that's our city classroom, and then our country classrooms out here, and then we do clinics at different types of events. Definitely. I mean, phytochemistry is a huge part of like how we decide to make. I mean, the constituents at least would be a big part of it. The biology of the plants, that would be more like how I would decide to gather what and when, but and how it grows, all these different kinds of considerations. But so what happened is for the past, let's say, since about 2000, and I guess no, it was 2002, I started teaching classes, just free classes in herbal medicines. I had gone to herb school with Michael Moore at the Southwest School of Botanical Medicine in Bisbee, Arizona, and I also studied up in the Pacific Northwest, and I met all sorts of herbalists all over the country. So for me, what happened is I got out of college, I was completely disgruntled, didn't know what I was going to do, so I got rid of everything, put a backpack on, and went hitchhiking and train hopping, and just ended up all over the country meeting all sorts of interesting people. I was also an activist, so I did a lot of direct action work in the forests and in the deserts and in the mountains, and just did all sorts of stuff because for me it was all about protecting the earth. So I went and I sat in old growth trees and did forest defense out in old growth forests and met all these herbalists. So I thought I graduated pre-law. I thought I was going to be a lawyer because I wanted to get all my activist friends out of jail. So my thought was like, I'll just be a criminal lawyer and help people who are doing all these things. So what ended up happening is I met these herbalists in the middle of the forest who were a lot like me, that had this background in ecology and conservation, and they could just take me out on a plant walk, and they knew all these plants out in the middle of the forest and how to use them and how to eat them and how to make them into medicine and what was poisonous and what wasn't. And it was my first plant walk, just blew me away. And I would just call up people and be like, where should I go to herb school? And everyone kept saying, go to Michael Moore's school. So his claim to fame, Michael Moore was the granddaddy of North American herbal medicine, and he did a lot of work with, he's an excellent botanist, excellent physiologist, anatomy, physiology kind of guru for Western medicine. So he basically took his love of plants and applied it to how to balance out the body better. And he was the one who brought in all these old teachings from doctors from the mid-1800s that had done tons of clinical work with our native plants. So there's all this information on our native plants that's been collected, and he started a school where he was giving out, or he was sharing what he knew about bioregional medicines. So I had to go to Arizona to learn the Texas medicines, because I decided I wanted to be able to go on plant walks and know what was around me and know how to use it. And my big passion was, how do you connect people to the earth, so that if you really want to take care of the earth, if you really want to see it survive, then if people are getting well because their medicine is out there, that's going to be a direct connection for them, so they're much more likely to want to take care of something if it means their well-being is at stake. So so that's where a lot of my extracts come from. You'll see that a lot of the preparations are made from species that don't necessarily have a lot of clinical data on them, but I've experimented with them enough and know enough about them, and that I've found them to be quite effective. So and that's what we've done with the school, is just created this thing where you can learn how to take care of yourself with what's growing around you. And I ended up many years living in East Austin, practicing out of there, had some different spaces where I saw clients, and have had lots of success health-wise with all sorts of different types of health concerns, from skin issues, chronic skin issues like eczema, or I've had lots of success with IBS, and people transitioning with hormones, like where they go to the doctor, stuff doesn't work, they come to me and it works. So we have a different approach, and we're kind of working in this gray area as herbalists. The North American herbalists work in this kind of in-between zone where subclinical, like somebody hasn't been diagnosed but there's just something wrong and they can't put their finger on what's wrong. That's where herbalists come in. So we come in and we look at entire health, constitutional health, like what's going on in each body system, how are you feeling, when did it start, and we do a 2-hour assessment. And then after that 2-hour assessment, we come up with a plan with herbs and body work and different types of holistic protocols to get somebody better. Oh, and here's an example of some native dewberries that I'm processing right now, and I'm making shrubs right here. These are shrubs or drinking vinegars, so it's honey and vinegar with dewberries in it, and then you add it to like sparkling water, and so you get like a little electrolyte blend that tastes delicious. It's a little sour, a little sweet afterwards. So I just made it. It's not ready right now, but they're delicious. And I put some herbs in there too, so there's like, you know, some different tasting herbs, so that it just gives it different flavor. Then, this is a harvest we just did that I have to process. This is our wild oat harvest here. So this is Avena sativa, and it's wild oats tops. And they're really high in calcium and magnesium, and we use them in herbal medicine to help as a nerve tonic, a tropho restorative nerve tonic. that brings balance back. So if somebody's not sleeping well or has anxiety, that sort of stuff, calcium, magnesium, things that are high in that are going to help to restore the nervous system. So that step out of the model of the world that they've been told is what they should be in, and start to realize that they don't have to live that way. That devices are not, devices and sitting in the classroom and all that stuff, we teach people how to unplug from that and start to view the world as what's in season, what do I need to do to take care of myself right now, how do I live better, how do I, so it's a complete perspective change, and that doesn't happen with one class. That happens with people starting to take plants in on a regular basis that are wild. But I think that for what I teach and what, if ecology and botany and everything, they're all systems, right? So we're in a system as humans right now, and I think that system is not very healthy. And so what I'm teaching out here is a system of how to be healthy with yourself and the earth, so that you can do this same thing that I'm doing in this larger space at your little house, and just, make up a little drinking vinegar for yourself, or put fresh rosemary in something you're eating. The more you get these medicinal herbs into your life, the more you're able to stay healthy, I believe. So. The world is full of information now. You can look up anything online, right? So if somebody's going to come and study, why would we just tell them a bunch of stuff that they could look up, right? So our thought is that if you're going to come and study herbalism, you're going to actually go out in the garden and start doing stuff, or making remedies, or learning how to assess bodies, or starting to taste plants and look at them and be able to assess things, because we want people to have actual experiences that are knowledge building, not information building. Exactly. And so this kind of goes back for about 5 or 6 acres. There's 8 acres in total, and this is considered the back acreage, and we just leave it for the critters. We just seed it with wild native plants, and we have trails back there, but especially in the summer, we just kind of close it off for chiggers and things like that, because it gets pretty bad. But it's pretty much wild, and we're just we've brought like the Natural Resources Defense Council out here, and they've helped us to figure out how to maintain it and get it back to what it should be like instead of what it is, So they usually in land like this in Central Texas, you'd see a lot of burns, and since they're not allowed to burn, then you end up with too much plant matter everywhere. So it's the idea of closed systems. So any waste you have, like our waste, our compost goes to the chickens poop on their hay, that goes into the garden as compost, and then that helps us to grow. So it's closed systems. And so we have damp stagnation in the body. So this is all stuff that will help you to move stuff through your body. This is cold depression in the body. So if somebody's too cold, you want to warm them up. These are all plants that warm. So we've got peppers and horseradish and onions, things like that. This is a bed that's all for sliming up the body. So it's for people who need more slime. People get dried out. They get sore throats that are dry hair, dry skin. And then this is going to be, it's in transition, but this is to cool down the body. So everything that's planted in here is going to help when people are overheated. Doesn't make much sense to non-herbalists, but that's how we do things. So I have, there's a bunch of food mixed in with all of the medicines so that it's just really diverse. The more diversity you have, the less problems you have with critters. Because if you think about, like, if you're a potato beetle and there's a huge 20,000 acre thing or 10,000 acres of potatoes, you're going to go for that, right? If your potatoes are all mixed in with everything else, it's just not as is appetizing for bugs to go for. So there's a lot of things just mixed together in here. So parasite cleanse is using herbs a lot of times that can be quite complex pharmacologically, and they could have some side effects on the body. And to me, right now, people look up something on the internet, right? And they look up stuff on the internet and they're like, I need these herbs, I want to take these herbs. But so they're self-diagnosing and they're going and getting stuff from who knows where, right? So she called and she wanted me to give her these, or where did she get parasite herbs? And I go, well, I don't just give out parasite herbs because those could hurt somebody if it wasn't the right, situation. And she goes, oh, I didn't know that. And I go, honestly, I would rather do an assessment with somebody to make sure that's the right course for them, because a lot of people aren't ready for that. And I think that it's hard for herbalists because there's not many professional herbalists that are trained in constitutional assessment from a holistic model. Constitutional assessment is the ability to look at somebody's body and read it like a book. Okay, so I can read people, I can look at their tongue, read their pulse, look at their body type, and know this herb might be better than that herb. Or I can also ask them a series of questions. Is this body system underworking or overworking? Some herbs are going to help to change that. So it's complex, right? It's not a class you're going to teach to this thing. It's very complex, but it's really hard to explain that to the general public, that what I'm doing is not just some health coaching that's off the internet, that I look stuff up and I just go grab something out of a book, So I have a deep understanding of how these plants grow, how to process them correctly, how to choose which ones are right for people, and then how to apply them in a way that's going to be effective for long-term support. So that's really tricky, and that takes a lot of long study. It's like a lifetime of study. So those of us that are drawn to it also know that we're in the middle of creating a profession, because we're starting to create more and more professionally trained herbalists that want to see clients. And we fill a role in the healthcare system that medical people don't really have time to fill or want to fill. They don't want to sit down for 2 hours with somebody. They have a lot of stuff to do. So we have these hours or 2-hour segments that we sit down with people, because sometimes people really need to be heard about their health. I think all of us here can know that we've all been frustrated at times when something's gone on and somebody couldn't help you, and you went and you're like, what a waste of time, and nobody's listening, right? So we actually train people how to listen and how to work with people, and then sometimes they're taught to make their own medicine and grow it themselves, because that connection is going to help them heal better. Explain what I do in a succinct way to people that makes them feel that makes like healthcare practitioners feel better, because a lot of times they don't know when if they should even refer to an herbalist, right? Because it's like, well, what are you, some sort of weirdo that's gonna that's really the thought, right? Like if I bring up anything at the doctor's office, they usually just dismiss it. It's very dismissive here. It's not necessarily like that in other parts of the country, but in Texas, it's very dismissive. So I think that hard cases, what I do if somebody has a case that it's not responding, I refer out and I work with other practitioners, and I think that's truly integrative health is being able to access a team of practitioners to help somebody get to where they want to be. And not one practitioner can do it on their own. Not in the medical world, not outside of the medical world. You have to have a team of practitioners. If somebody's really sick, they need a lot of people to bring them back. So I don't act outside of my scope, and so that means that I ask for help, and I work with doctors and nurses and chiropractors and massage therapists and whoever I need to work with to make it into a team that's going to help somebody. So for me, my main thing about my business that's different from a lot of business models is I'm a social enterprise, and so the bottom dollar isn't, or the bottom line isn't the dollar. So I'm not a capitalist endeavor. I do make money, but my bottom line is this going to be positive social change, and are we going to be able to move together as a society with my business? Like, my business isn't just about me making money. It's about how do I offer something back to society. So you'll see other businesses that do it, like Dominican Joe's, Tom's, that has the shoes. They give one of their shoes, one pair of shoes for every shoe you buy. So we have to see things change. So to me, herbalists, we learn how to think outside the box a lot of times so that we can start to create new realities. But I can also work with the medical world. So I think that's important. You have to be able to bridge. You have to be able to talk to medical practitioners as well as spiritual practitioners that are speaking another language altogether, right?